Hello and welcome to the Digital Digest, your weekly breakfast of insights, tips and tricks and general information that will help anyone trying to move things forward in this digital world of accounting. This show is brought to you by the Digital Disruptors and SP Digital and is sponsored by FYI, the practice management, document management suite that is pushing the boundaries in the UK. We've also got with us today Bethanie Hawkins, who is a bit of an expert in digital transformation space to help talk through our topic today, which is in process mapping and how that can help in digital transformation. I'm your host, Ryan Pearcy, and I think it's a perfect time to crack on. So firstly, Bethanie, you've been doing digital transformation for a while now, but how long, I guess, have you been process mapping?
Oh gosh, I would say between this role and the role I had 2 jobs ago, probably about 3 years in total at various times.
Cool, yeah. And it's something that I've been doing, I guess, for maybe 5-6 years, and has become a fundamental part of what we do and how we deliver a service. So we'll talk a bit about, I guess, why we've come to this, but why do you, Bethany, find it pretty much a need or a must or something that your go-to part of digital transformation?
Why do I find it a go-to?
Yeah, why do you do it? Yeah.
So for me, yes, absolutely, almost pretty much a non-negotiable, unless we're looking at something incredibly simple that's going to fulfill just one simple need within a business. But if ever you're looking at implementing a new system or even just enhancing the systems you already have, I personally think it's incredibly important to understand what your processes are, make sure that everyone in the business agrees what they should be, and that everyone is following that same process, so that can be implemented within a system. But also by having kind of a 60-minute, 2-hour session with a client and asking them and probing them into all of the different steps of their process and workflows, and asking the whys behind, why does this happen and why is it being sent there? Where's this data coming from? It helps you start to uncover opportunities to kind of automate processes a little bit more and just improve the processes, even without automation. If something is done and doesn't have a really good reason behind that part of the process existing, then get rid of it. If the process is done multiple times, we can get rid of the duplication. If the process is done manually, then we know that there's a part of the process to automate. So it just really highlights the risks within the business in that particular process, and where the opportunities are to optimize things a little bit more. So I would say, a business could tell you, I want, a stock management system, and these are the 20 things I need it to do. But I still would really not want to research a system based on that, because I know that your list of 20 will turn into a list of 40 once I've mapped out your processes and understood actually all the little kind of bits and pieces that you need to do as part of your process, and all the
definitely
bits and pieces to be aware of, and
the nuances, right? So every business that I start to have a conversation with always starts with we're a simple business, we operate like any other, and not a single business that we work with is the same as another one. Everyone's got their own way of doing things, their own unique factors that make them special, and it makes them make money. And so we really need to get to grips and understand that. And before we started doing process mapping at SP Digital, we used to just make notes, lots of notes. And the thing we found out with that, for doing that, is it's always missed something. We've missed something that's quite important, because when someone's talking through what they do, unless they can visually imagine or see what's going on, they'll skip a step or they'll miss a vital bit of information. So process mapping and using it as a visual tool where they can see the flow of data going through makes it a lot easier for them to identify something's missed. And another thing we do is, we might be talking to 1 or 2 members of the team, but it enables them to share that with the rest of the team, and they will come back and go, well, actually, Dave's really critical in this part, and you've completely missed that element. So it becomes quite like you say, it's become a must-have for us. But I also find it's a big positive on its own. So we create process maps before we go and do our research, and we give them to the client, and that's already generated value for them early on in our engagement. And If they just wanted that on its own, we're happy to provide that service, and we have to discuss that with clients. Nearly every single one that we've started doing that process with, they then wanted us to go and find the right solutions for. But we have started just going, do you want to understand how your business operates? We can map that out for you. And as you say, you can identify those pinch points, those duplications where it's, and a lot of time clients just go, whoa, I did not realize that we had this big problem. We need to address that no matter what we do regarding a system. So yeah, it's definitely something that is needed. So I know I've seen many different people do this. We've talked about a visual tool, but how do you process map? What is your go-to way of doing it?
So I'm quite a data-driven person. I'm very kind of factual and very methodical as a personality type. So I like to break down my sessions by I guess department or function. So a process mapping session would be covering I don't know, warehouse management, or it would cover project management. It wouldn't cover multiple parts of the business or, you know, the business as a whole. It needs to be a really specific scope that's defined initially. Try and get maximum 3-4 people from the client in the room. Ideally, there should be decision makers, but also people that actually do the process day to day, so that when I'm asking how does this work, what's the next step, I am actually getting the right answer. At the top of the session, I'll typically ask, you know, what are their top wishes for, you know, this process. What are they looking to get out of it, and what are the main changes and impacts they want to see to the business, just so that we can ensure that we're always aligned to what the client is looking to achieve. And then I'll confirm what the scope of the process is. So today we're looking to understand the workflows within your stock management in your warehouse. And then we'll define from the beginning, so the input of the process, and then the end being the output of the process. So what's the start, what's the end, and then we can start to fill out everything in between.
So those, you say you focus on a specific function. Are those individual sessions you're doing it, or are you breaking down a session into those individual areas?
It depends. If it's just a couple of functions we're looking at, then we could do that in 2 sessions, but very separately. So each will have its own process map to ensure that there's no kind of confusion and going back and forth. But some clients I work with where we're literally going in to look at, you know, 5 or more processes. We'll either break that down over multiple days, or go in and kind of create a whole agenda for a day on site.
Yeah, so we tend to be, I guess, in the work we do, we tend to look at multiple different areas in one go, and we do break it down though, just like you. We create an agenda and we break it down by function, and then we bring in the relevant people at those key points. So as we hit the end of it, and you can link different process maps together. And one thing I find is that keeping a client on track. So if we're talking about, sales, they don't start dipping into procurement at some point, and try and pull them back. This is our focus, is a challenge in itself, and it's a skill. And it's something that we've had to refine over time. But yeah, breaking them down to functions is critical, so people can see where's that start point, where's that end point, and what do we interact with via, and that can be, like you said, systems, staff, or like what data is shared throughout. I guess as we go through this process. So one thing I am interested in is what systems have you used, because I know that others have flagged things like Miro before that they've played with, Lucid Chart. What is it you tend to work with historically?
So I've only used one, that's Score. I know there are several systems out there, and I've also seen very many accounting practices use even Microsoft Word to create kind of flow charts and things like that. So I'd like to think I'm quite far ahead. But yeah, I really like Score. I think it's really easy to use. It's quite, a visual piece of software. It can be customized and branded to your business, so that when you're sharing process maps and things with clients, it looks like it's come from Menzies. We can include the client's own branding in there. And as you say, you can kind of attach one process map to another process map. You can kind of get really detailed with the processes and sub processes, and you've got your keys and your colors and things. So it's kind of up to you how sophisticated you are with it. But yeah, I like it for that reason, because it's got a lot of opportunity within it to be quite as flexible as you need it to be.
Definitely. I used to use Microsoft Visio, which did what it needed to do. You could visually map things out. You can make flows between them. But we got to a point where we wanted to track how much time was being spent, and how different people were interacting with different parts of the business. And we found Score was the best way of doing that. So just like you, Bethany, we're a big fan of Score, and that's SKORE, in case anyone does want to look into it. And actually, I'll see if I can show you an example of what that looks like in a second. But the main thing for us is that visualization, the ability to tag, highlight, color, anything that makes it really stand out for a client, I think is critical. So the other thing I have seen people do is Excel, and Excel is not a bad place to start. So you can in Excel just list everything, every step that you go through, put the time, put who does it, and you create a little database of what goes on. And that's a good place to start. It's harder to ingest that information, I find. So if it's something you want to work with team on and understand and map things out, there's a bigger chance of things being missed. But there's nothing wrong with starting in Excel. So if you're going to start process mapping, it's easy to jump into Excel before you get into another tool. By all means, go there. You will find, if you start doing this a lot, you'll want a more advanced tool. And and it sounds like Bethany as well, find Score is a perfect example of that. So what I'm going to do, if I can do this effectively, is to share my screen so that you can see what a process map in Score looks like. So hopefully you can see this now. On the right hand side, we've got an example of just not a random, but a payroll process that can exist in a business. Now, what we've done is this is a revised one. So what we do is we map out what the existing processes look like for a client, and then we create a revised version based on the recommendations we're making. And when we do that, every time we've made a change, we highlight that yellow. So it's visually very clear to a client that we've made a change. Everything that's white is exactly the same as it was on the original. Anything yellow is a change. And something that I like and we use a lot inside Score is these little attachment icons. And when you click on a little attachment, a little paperclip, it brings up who's responsible. So there's little tags down here. So it could be systems, it could be individuals, but also the ability to quantify. Now, by quantifying in Score, you can add a duration and you can add a quantity. Now, if you're adding a duration and quantity over, like say it's a month, it takes 15 minutes to do one, and we have 20 versions of this per month. You then get a total time that it takes per month for that individual step. And if you build that up across every single step, you actually get a total time across the entire year processes. As that's then tagged to an individual, and you can put in their relative hourly charge in that for that individual, you can get a cost of operations. And that we've found has become very critical in how we operate and talk to our clients, because we can map out what their cost of operations was at the start on their current systems and processes, and then through our recommendation, what that cost of operations looks like if they transition. And the difference in those two cost of operations is their efficiency saving. And we map that against the implementation costs, we can come up with a return on investment for those clients. And since doing that, it really actually puts that tangible value in what they can achieve. Now, this is all theoretical because they have to, obviously, those people aren't going anywhere. They're still there, and they have to have additional tasks to fill their day. But it's a potential efficiency gain they can achieve, and people can see value in that. So we do that a lot, and that's something that Score really enables us to push forward with. Now, is that something that you do, Bethany, like with Score? Is that something that you dabble with at all? You said about the colour stuff. I guess the process and the way that's laid out is similar.
Yeah. Yes, we do the before process map, the after process map. I've yet to try the quantify module, but that's something that we want to start doing from here forward, so that as we were discussing earlier, we can have kind of a baseline where we can show our clients roughly how much time we are saving each client by going through a process mapping and digital transformation process. But yeah, I think the quantify module of kind of tracking time taken, costs, etc., just adds more value to that process and what it already did before we used that. So
Yeah, definitely. And it's not needed for some clients. They go, we're doing this irrespective. We don't really care how much money we save. And I've had that before. That feedback's like, oh, we've identified these savings. It's like, we don't care. We're doing this process anyway. But for some, actually, when they map it out, it can impact whether it's a yes to do it or a no, because they know the pain of going through changing a system. It can be so turbulent for a business, and they need to see actually why are we doing it, and then sell that to the team as well. Like, this is what we look to achieve. This is how it makes your life easier. It will effectively save you time. If they're stressed and overworked, it's going to bring some relief to that team. So definitely a plus, and definitely something that, since we've been doing it, we feel like we mandate that now across every project that we do. But I guess I want to just run through the structure of how we do this to make this very clear. Is that when we've engaged, we make sure that process mapping is mandatory for our advisory service. We actually do not make a recommendation on any system unless we have carried this out, because we have been through the point with clients before where we've not done it. Then when we've made a recommendation based on notes, we've missed stuff, and then it's gone horrible for the client. It's a horrible experience for them. It's a horrible experience for us. So it's a mandated way. Like we've mapped it. We've done it to a point where it probably costs about £700-800 to do it, depending on how many processes are in place. So there's an investment point there, but the return on it we find is well worth doing that piece of work. But we visually map this out. Normally we're remote, so we're doing this via Teams. We visually map it out on the screen, sharing our screen like we were, like I was just then, adding steps as we go along. And as we finish that, we share that to the client, get them to sign off on it or tell us to make changes, and then we basically say this is our understanding of exactly where you are, and you've signed off on it. At that point, we've got a brilliant baseline to go off and do our work. Now, is that similar, I guess, without the quantify bit, is that similar to how you do it, Bethany?
Yeah, almost identical, to be honest. Sometimes we just give them access to the process map as well, so they can go in and kind of really dig into it and see if there is anything missing or anything they want to add. And then, I go away, do kind of my research, make my recommendations. So when I'm then kind of given my recommendations, it's based on the kind of risks and bottlenecks that are in the process map. It'll be recommendations for systems to use and process changes, and then after that will come the revised process map.
Definitely. And I think that's another beautiful thing about SCORE is because it's cloud-based, you can share it. We tend to not. I think it's because we create a PDF report and we like to add that in. But you can send a link, they can come in and they can, basically you can collaborate on it, which is great. Yeah. And I think to summarize where we are is, if you are embarking on digital transformation for businesses or internally, process mapping is a critical step. Do not skip it. It is pretty much needed to make sure that you do not miss anything fundamental. Hopefully, that Bethany and I have run through how you can kind of do that. But if you do want some more information on it, please do reach out. But I feel that feels like a good place to wrap up this week's show, and hopefully this episode has provided you listeners with valuable insights in how you can bring this into digital transformation process. If you haven't seen anything, if this is the first one you've seen, we've done some other recordings about some initial steps before you engage in a digital transformation process, and we'll do some others as we go through this about other steps on what you look into, how you can carry out research, etc. Please do check out the show notes for links to both the Digital Disruptors and SB Digital, and also Bethany's business and Menzies, and our wonderful sponsor for this show, which is FYI. And please also, if you want to catch future episodes, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and look out for releases every Thursday morning on LinkedIn at around 8:30. Look forward to speaking to you next week.